So we're painting over a piece called Dendron. It's actually a pretty cool painting, but I was running low on square canvases. I have a small reserve of 20 by 16s, but not a lot of 20 by 20s. I think I put probably 2 to 3 hours into that painting, but ultimately just wasn't up to standard. And that's something that you should cultivate in time, is knowing when a painting is finished and when you could do better. Some of my paintings have, I don't know, 3 to 4 finished paintings under them before the final piece comes out, and in my opinion that does have an effect on the end result. Here we're adding some gesso to the sky. What I think the sky will be doesn't turn out that way, really. I don't even know what I'm aiming to do currently. I was hoping to do just a portrait, because portraits are quick and simple. Kind of a cop-out for me, but that's not how it turns out. What I don't include is the amount of time I spend looking at reference pictures. I looked at a lot of Zdzisław Beskiński work, and if you look at that middle section right there where it's still an abstract blob, there are a lot of Beskiński paintings that kind of have that general feel, but I don't have the same technical proficiency as Beskiński does, so I don't end up going down that path. I started using paintbrushes in February of last year, and I didn't really use multiple colors until about February of last year too. I was really into the monochromatic thing, so looking at Zdzisław's work really helped me figure out what colors can work in a palette, but it doesn't tell you what colors work as underpaintings, and I'm still figuring that out one by one. It's a trial and error type of a thing. So this painting we're using 3 colors. We're using the acrylic gesso, the white stuff. We're using a Liquitex Basics sky blue that doesn't show up till the end, and we're also using Master's Touch lake blue. That's actually surprisingly dark for the shades of paint we're using, and I don't use any other shades for this one. If you look at Zdzisław's blue paintings, there's a few of them with red figures in there, and I was thinking about bringing that over, but I couldn't finesse it in. So right now you can see I'm trying to bring out a face right there, but even in hindsight that would be a terrible spot for a portrait. What I'm starting to see is that a portrait should be located in closer to the lower half, about the same size as it is now, but closer to the lower half. And you see now there are 3 heads. There's one in the middle, and then there's 2 ones on the side, and the 2 on the side come down like a swoop. It's kind of like a half moon. I wanted to keep that figure. I'm not sure at this moment. I'm not sure what we're gonna do with it. It could be the background. It could be. I was thinking about putting those as crucifixes. There's the 2 horns on the side, but we don't do that. I think we found it. Yeah, just now. Yeah, right now we found the primary focal point, the main figure. And I'm sure as we move onward, you're going to notice that almost every painting has that moment where we find the main figure and we bring it out. This time around, I wanted to make a more feminine figure. Someone asked me to paint them something similar to a previous piece. It was called The Seer, which in my opinion is one of my better works of the last 4 or 5 months. He wanted one just like the Seer, but with the caveat of it being a more feminine figure. So I wanted this figure to look more feminine, but in the end, it doesn't. That's not how it plays out. It looks more masculine than anything, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. See, right now I'm using a lot of sky area. Not sky blue, but I'm using the gesso to create a big portion of sky in the background. That's kind of a trick of laziness that I'll do a lot, and it works. I'm gonna say that a lot, but we do what works. So a lot of the upper canvas space is now sky, and before long we're gonna cover up a big chunk of that foreground as snow, and then there'll be a crucifix popping up right in the middle. At this point, I still don't know what those two side figures are gonna be. They could be other people. You never know. Right now, I don't know. I was trying to make that middle figure have more. Yeah, there's that foreground thing I was talking about. I was trying to make that figure have a more dynamic position, more dynamic posture, but I just couldn't do it. And the painting doesn't suffer from it, so it's not an issue. There's that. There's a big trick that I have right there. A lot of empty space, man. A lot of empty space. But since we're working right down the middle, there's a fair amount of harmony, and that's a good thing. A lot of harmony. And here comes the introduction of this bird figure. Now, in my head, I kind of wanted the bottom half of that moon figure to be a little more metal, you know. As you're painting it, it kind of looks like there's a bunch of skulls and stuff like suspended in mid-air, but we don't end up doing that. Instead, we bring out this weird ass bird, and for reference, I was using a swan painting, not a swan painting, but a swan picture with its arms spread out, and the bird looks nothing like a swan. It looks far more prehistoric, like a prehistoric toucan or some shit. When I use references, they generally don't resemble what I use them for. Like, you couldn't tell what I reference. And I think that just comes down to me being a pretty terrible artist on a technical standpoint. But in the end, that's a good thing. Here we are. I figured out an easy way to add to the harmony, and instead of making those background figures into people or anything, we're just going to make them into do a mountain range with it. There's me on the phone, probably texting someone. Alright, here we go. I'm trying to give this figure more movement. But we end up settling for a very small amount of movement, which ends up working for the piece. That's the sky blue right there. It's a different shade, and it just makes it look like there's more mountains in the background. I really like this symmetric thing. Try to aim for symmetry in your work. So I was aiming really hard for a portrait, and it didn't work out. But the piece that came through looks perfect. I like it. Big fan of it. I actually prefer this one to the painting that was underneath it, that was previously called Dendron, which again, Hotelier song from a pretty okay album. you have to be able to let paintings go, and yeah, you have to be able to let them go, and it's almost always for the better. Don't be afraid to paint over old paintings. Don't hold on to them. Don't get too attached to them. All of it's expendable. When they're done, they're done, and if you're lucky, you'll never see them again. It's a good thing to keep up that type of belief. I know more than a few people who cling on to their pieces long past due date. You know, and not due date, but expiration date. What you don't really see in this picture is that the painting itself isn't that yellow tinged. It's just an effect of the camera and the lighting in my bedroom. It's a lot more white in person. But yeah, that's it for today. I'll probably upload one in probably 2 or 3 days. I think I'm gonna do an ink piece next. So no videotaping. Yeah, I know it's the end of the world, but if you have a few bucks, throw it my way on Patreon. Patreon.com/datura_AD. Buy some artwork. I still have some prints up in the shop. Big Cartel /DaturaAD. You know, and yeah. If you're on IG, give me a follow, and I will see you next time.